brought to you by LaglessGG. Get 35% off your first purchase by using code CygnusMC or click the link below. On December the 3rd of 2024, Bros uploaded this video explaining he was going to be suing Mojang over their failure to comply with the EU law on several fields, like gambling and the EULA changes not being notified. But now almost 5 months and a successful GoFundMe later, Kian is sitting on top of a giant pile of money, and to most people outside of the Discord, it doesn't seem like much progress was made. Not to mention that his video sparked a lot of negativity on our already volatile community, with people going on to the GoFundMe saying things like please destroy Mojang, and a lot of mentions of accounts being lost, while the original video never even mentioned account migration and never mentioned that that was the goal of the lawsuit. Well, what happened to the money then? And by extension, what happened to the lawsuit? Well, why don't we ask the man himself?
Hey, I'm Kian, the person behind the YouTube channel Bros. I made the video about the lawsuit, and I'm here to give him a direct interview update on what's currently going on behind the scenes, up to the extent that I can say.
So today, let's go into the fallout of the Mojang lawsuit. And before we do that, if you like the investigative work I do here, creating first-hand sources, asking for comment, researching, please consider subscribing. Thank you. Anyways, lawsuit time. Alright, first, a short recap of what the lawsuit originally promised to entail. The class action lawsuit wanted Mojang to clarify its vague EULA that was enforced on a what I feel like in the moment basis, and it wanted to see consequences for not only Mojang's failure to notify users of the 2023 EULA changes, but of course their alleged complacency in allowing gambling addictions to developing kids via their product. This was all outlined in a very angry video where Kian went on to explain that his own project was basically dead in the water after spending a whole lot of money on it, and 2 other gun-based servers got slapped for having guns on their server. This fueled him to dig deeper in what the EULA actually permits and what it could mean, eventually finding out that the enforcement wasn't all up to par, and then it led him to pursue legal action, as a lot of parties seemed to be affected. And that led, eventually, to the GoFundMe gaining about 130,000 euros. Now I presume that you already know this, but what I doubt a lot of people saw and or knew was that there was an accompanying document on the video which made it very clear what this lawsuit would and wouldn't cover. And one of those things at the time was account migration not being included. But that has changed.
Actually, there on the account migration, what I can say is the lawyer said that most likely people aren't going to get access back to their accounts because Mojang is going to get a choice of what they get to do. And given that they're already, I'm just quoting what the lawyer said, or like based on what I remember he said, since Mojang is already going to have to pay out financial compensation for the loss of the accounts, they're unlikely to reinstate them and more likely to refund them.
But if you want my 2 cents here, if you were hoping to get your old account back from this, I honestly doubt it very, very much. You're likely to get some money back, which is nice, but not your account. That being said, while it's great that account migration is now being included in the lawsuit, for a long time it wasn't. So some people gave money to this GoFundMe under a false assumption that their issue would be represented in court. And that was my first criticism of the video itself. It didn't clearly outline what was and wasn't going to be in the lawsuit, and the document did, but it was never mentioned throughout the entire video. However, criticism aside, I do believe that it was never Kian's intention to, as some people may put it, mislead consumers in paying for his issue. And I still believe that this class action lawsuit can do a lot of good for not only the Minecraft community, but gaming as a whole. But that all being said, where are we now? Since the GoFundMe reached its goal, Kian has been hard at work finding representation. I've gotten the occasional update myself outside of the Discord. First, though, was the fact of getting the money from GoFundMe itself onto a bank account, which was a whole hassle, with their latest announcement in their Discord saying as much.
So in that last public update that I made, I've also been like sending occasional updates here and there, like through the normal channels, but like nothing in an actual announcement format until there's something big. So in that last update, the funds had arrived. So like we had the funds in the bank account where we sorted out all of the problems with the bank account and the possible taxation. So we've got the funds in the bank ready to use. At this point in time, currently when recording this, nothing has been used so far. The amount is slightly higher than the screenshot currently shown there. If you want, I can actually show you. Would you like me to show you?
Yeah, sure.
There you go. So here it is. We've got the, these are the numbers you wouldn't show. That's the bank account numbers. You got your MCCE, which is the shorthand for Minecraft Consequences Edition. And yeah, all the money is there. There's been still transfers from the GoFundMe, from the occasional donations that have happened after this initial transfer. But nothing has been touched. It's all in.
And let me be the first to say it's very good that he's planning to make everything publicly available, which was my main concern here. Where's the money and where's it going? People paid money for this lawsuit, so it's important that their money goes to a lawsuit, though it seemed that the money wasn't the only issue, getting the issues heard in court.
When you're working with a lawyer, some of them want to get paid immediately, like starting from the first call or email you have with them. And actually, during the talks with one of the lawyers, there was this one firm where after having like a 30-minute call where they were asking questions and I was answering them, they actually wanted to send an invoice immediately after. And then I had to tell them that you didn't mention the invoicing right prior to having this call, etc. And it's not the standard to send an invoice immediately on the first call, because the first call or email at least tends to be free of charge. It's like consulting or like seeing the options of going forward, right? So I had to explain like my position, where it's my responsibility to make sure that these funds are used in the way the community expects, and I cannot send any kind of invoice, etc., because people would get pissed at me, especially if they just send it when I wasn't aware that they were going to send it, which I don't think is an acceptable way to invoice. So until I get the letter of assignment, which I have yet to get for reasons that I'll explain later, no money is going to exit here. So this stays here until I get the letter of assignment. And just to clarify, the letter of assignment is basically a sort of contract you have with the law firm or lawyer, which says what their job is going to be, like what they're going to help you represent, and what they're going to charge, like their minimum charge rate of, we charge a minimum of 15 minutes. So like if you have an email, they're going to charge at least 15 minutes for seeing, replying, etc. And all of that financial information. So the reason that it's been so difficult to get a letter of assignment is because this one law firm, which is the one that we're most likely going to go with, they said, and I quote something around the lines of, "We are not driven by the desire to invoice. Before sending a letter of assignment, we want to make sure that the case and objectives are clear, so that we know that we can provide value for the client." So for example, if you take the PayPal Honey case, that one is as simple as it gets. PayPal screwed over people by replacing the referral codes so that the creators, etc., didn't get that. And that's very simple. You can summarize it in one paragraph. But here we are in a situation where there's at least 10 different topics. I think it's 11 based on a document I got, where they're all sort of linked together, but they're not exactly the same.
I mean, I get it. If your lawyer has to ask you what a software license is, you might be looking for another one. You know, I'm not a lawyer myself, but here's my legal advice. So we now know where the money is. We now know where the money isn't spent, and what they are doing to get the best representation as possible and get as many points in that representation as possible. Let's ask ourselves two other questions that I don't see a lot of people discussing in the way that I would like. Is this lawsuit going to work? And if it works, what happens next? According to the Cornell Law School, a class action lawsuit is a procedural device that permits one or more plaintiffs to file and prosecute on behalf of a larger group or class. That basically just means that a single person can sue someone and represent a larger demographic. In this case, that is Kian and his lawyers going to be representing everyone who feel like they are affected by these issues raised above. The good part here of a class action lawsuit is that everyone who feels like or has been affected can actually sign up to the list that Kian provided in his video, and I will link here as well. But what are the actual chances of them winning? Well, first off, I'm not a lawyer here, duh, but I do have some knowledge of Belgian and European law and courts. And in my opinion, the strongest point here are these EULA changes not being communicated to users specifically. This one just can't be twisted otherwise. You can say that it was on their Twitter and website, but that hardly qualifies as a notification when you realize that they have every single Minecraft player's email address. The account migration, honestly, might hold up a little bit better here, as at first I was very skeptical that this would never hold any water. But at second glance, the simple fact you can't get access to something you paid money for is very odd, and I will maintain my stance that you should get access to things you pay for. But you had 3 years to do the migration part, and if you're not one of the few who were in a coma, deployed overseas, or just homeless for a while, which I totally understand and respect, then I don't understand how you missed 60 messages telling you to migrate. Maybe it wasn't 60, maybe it was like 4. But anyways, the guns. A lot has been made about this lawsuit going on about guns specifically. And considering that they have guns in their now official licensed Minecraft movie DLC, this obviously could go solid. But the truth here is that the lawsuit has never had anything to do with guns specifically. It's more the fact that moderation is all over the place with hidden clauses not being publicly available, and that should change. People should know what the clauses are and what to expect. The next part, Mojang's complicity in having gambling mechanics in the form of crates on third-party servers that you need to spend real-life money for to unlock. This, while I don't think will hold much water, could definitely spook Mojang in making its EULA tighter around that issue specifically. Though, again, I don't think it's going to go through, but they might get spooked enough to just squeeze everything tight so that it never happens again. And besides, Mojang has spent the last few years trying to distance themselves from anything not officially partnered in the server space out there, with the warning message when you boot up Minecraft for the first time being the most difficult hurdle for the lawsuit to overcome, in my opinion. But what if it actually works? What if the entire lawsuit goes through? What does this mean? Kian has, unfortunately, not been a stranger to the occasional jab or insult at his credibility, as many server owners are understandably a bit nervous about losing a big paycheck in the form of those crates. But if Kian is right, and this money comes from kids paying for these loot chests, they can go fuck themselves. All they care about is that paycheck. But their fears might not be entirely unfounded. Servers might suddenly get even tighter regulations to work within, meaning their budgets get slimmer and slimmer, although that doesn't necessarily mean that Mojang can force them into accepting this new deal. And while this is an unknown variable, one thing I can give you on the golden platter is that in my opinion, if you lost your account during the migration, you will not get it back in this lawsuit. Get that out of your head. You might get your money back, you might get a certain percentage, but the whole thing is like rarely the case. Just recently, the Volkswagen Group was sued in a class action like this, as they used faulty software to get better ratings on how much carbon dioxide and other pollutants their cars were exhausting. Owners of these affected cars got only 5% of their purchasing amount back after 6 years of legal proceedings. And I would imagine that this would be the same here. The EULA stuff is easily fixable, and aside from probably paying a fine, they would just set up a mailing list and maybe not let the intern make the EULA this time. I think Mojang can recover from this and become a better company as a whole. But I've been talking for long enough. Let's get to some sort of a conclusion. While it's good to be hopeful, it is important to stay realistic. This lawsuit will not destroy Mojang. It will not return it to the indie studio we love. It is so caked with corporate gunk that an 80s magazine would be jealous. What this class action can do, however, is set a precedent for other companies out there, in Europe at least, that there are consequences for negligence or criminal negligence or even consumer mistreatment. This lawsuit has a potential to form a basis for a lot of other things, because in the courtroom, laws matter as much as precedents do. We have courts because that's the way we interpret the written law. That's the whole point of having a court. If after this lawsuit someone else sues, they could just use what happens here as either proof that it's against the points being raised or for the points being raised. No matter what side you are on, this is a monumental occasion not only in the Minecraft history, but in gaming as a whole. And I will remain somewhat skeptical, because that's just me. But I do want to say that I admire the amount Kian goes through to make sure that this is going as good as it can possibly go. And I've talked a lot with him behind the scenes, and I can safely say he truly wants this to succeed. Not only for himself, but for everyone out there. But with that being said, I was Lunar, you are very awesome, and please don't sue Mojang. Hooey, that was one hell of a video. Well, hi. Well, I hope you survived that legalese. I just wanted to take a second to say thank you for watching, and thank you to all my Patreons, my YouTube Pebbles. If you don't know, $1 a month gets you the full interview with Kian, which is going to be early access on Patreon because I'm turning it into a podcast later. And if you're a YouTube member, you get early access to these videos, usually about 12 to 24 hours at advance. So if you would like to support my work, $1 a month, it helps. Even subscribing helps a lot. We're close to 25k when I'm trying to record this. So if we hit 25k, I would really appreciate that. But hey, I already appreciate you watching for this long. If you are still here, comment Pebble. If you're made it this far, comment like Pebble is cool or something. That would be cool. But for now, I'm gonna go. Bye bye.